It's evening, it's 7 p.m., and I'm wondering what time is it where you are at? I'm just going to dive right in and sketch here, but I hope, yeah, that you're going to have a wonderful Sunday if it's still morning where you are. And I'm going to spend my evening, or at least part of my evening, drawing this little frog. Starting really messy, trying to figure out, well, like the proportions, where its eyes are at. And I'm not worried that this is like still super messy. This is just the messy phase. Cute little mouth. Well, not really a little, not a small mouth, but looks cute. That little foot looks quite complicated. Going to simplify that a bit right now. So really great that you're all here. I hope you're having a lovely Sunday so far. Like I mentioned, over here it's 7 p.m. I had a really lovely sunny day, and I'll just spend a while this evening painting this frog. Starting out with a very messy sketch. Let me just check like the sizing. Maybe it could be a little bit bigger. Hi, Michelle. Gonna try and do my best to read and draw at the same time. Reading the comments. It is challenging. Well, that's great to hear in animation. That's really, really lovely to read. Well, thank you, Smiley Bandit. Well, and you are making my day with such a lovely comment. Making my Sunday even better. Well, that's great to hear, Prissy. I'm happy you learned from my videos. Well, hello there in Thailand. I love your country. Well, bonjour in France. Hope you're having a nice evening. Same time zone. Or I should say bonsoir then, I guess. So still in the very messy stage here. But I'm hoping to turn this into somewhat of a polished painting this evening. Let me just take a sip of my water. I really love reading your comments. That's really awesome. Now let me just make a more polished sketch. Oh, entire messy drawings are also nice. It can actually be a challenge for some people to keep things messy and not get lost in details. Messiness can really be charming. Well, I'm happy to hear that, Christos. I'm happy I'm succeeding at that. Well, if you don't know how to use the app yet, Dr. Abdulaziz, then I would recommend watching some videos on my channel. Just start with the more basic ones, and you will learn all about the app in no time. And then, of course, after that, it's just a matter of practicing a lot, putting in the hours, and then it'll get easier and easier. Well, thank you, Douglas. Hi. I'm happy you're here. He sure looks a bit derpy, especially this eye, but I guess I'll be able to fix that later. Well, thank you, Disha. I'm happy you're here. I think maybe the body should be a bit smaller. It always puts a little bit of like extra pressure on me drawing live. I remember when I was a kid, I never liked it when people were watching me as I drew. Always made me nervous. And then I I couldn't draw anything. But it got better over the years, but I still find it a little bit nerve-wracking. If anyone wants to try drawing or painting this frog, by the way, I have left a link in the description to the reference photo. So you can always give it a try yourself. Yeah, that hand, that little paw sure looks complicated. Can't really figure out those fingers. But yeah, I actually love using the liquify tool in the sketching phase. It's really one of my go-to tools. No, I don't plan on releasing a tutorial on this. This is just me live painting. I did do a tutorial on a frog some years back. It's at Patreon. So the techniques will be pretty much the same. I just stumbled upon this photo and I thought it would be fun to create another frog. I like putting it next to the photo. Well, thank you, Colombe. That is so very much appreciated. Thank you so much for your support. Shout out to you. Thank you. Yeah, what I wanted to say, I'm a little bit flabbergasted. Thank you so much for your kind words. Yeah, what I like to do with my sketch is just make it a little bit smaller, put it next to the photo to make it easier to check the proportions. And indeed, using Liquify is super handy in this phase. Let me just merge these two layers. It's super handy to use Liquify, set to push, to just push and pull some areas and fix some proportions. And maybe this little derpy eye. But I'll also be fixing things in the painting phase. Yeah, I think I'll just move on to coloring. Just let me take a sip. All right, I'll just lower the opacity and drop in some colors on a layer underneath. I'll just drop in a dark green color first. I can definitely go darker than that, but let me just use the soft brush so I can create something of a bit of a gradient, some blobs. Well, hi, Leslie. It's nice that you're here. Hello from Amsterdam. I can see the color needs to be a bit more like warm, less green, more of like a brownish color. It's really just searching for the proper color. I think this is a nice base. Can always go darker later. And now to be able to see that sketch, I see that. Why did I make a group? Not sure what happened here. Let me take this out of the group. Sometimes Procreate won't listen. So I'll just remove that group. And for the sketch, to make it visible again, I'll just tap it and use invert so that it becomes light. And then let me make a new layer. And I'll start painting that frog. I'll just use my base painter. And I'll just try and find a color that is relatively close to what the frog looks like, but it doesn't have to be the exact color. So I'll just follow my sketch and fill in that entire frog. I'll just make everything green. Well, everything on the frog. And then add a more color variety later. Just want to lay that shape down. All right, I'll go for something like this. And then I'll duplicate this layer just to make it more opaque. And then I'll set this layer to alpha log so I can add those other colors to this. And let me lower the opacity of the sketch. So I need some like yellowish color for that like underbelly. I'll just drop that in there. It's still way too light, but it's a start. Also some yellow here. I'll just lay something on there. Now let's go a little bit darker. Really, it still looks messy, but we'll get there. And some blue. I'm not sure what flag you're talking about. I don't have a flag here. And some more green. I'll just start dropping in some darker colors. Right now I'm using my base painter brush. It's part of my Flotastic set, which is available through Patreon. And some orange. Hi, Strawberry Cheesecake. Welcome to the stream. And some red for the eyes. And let's also drop in some brighter green. All right, let me use the smudge tool. Well, it's my pleasure in animation. I'm happy you were able to figure it out. All right, it's already starting to look a little bit like a frog. Let me make a layer underneath for that branch it's sitting on. Let's just lay some color down there. I'll just use the base painter. And I'll first drop in a dark color. And for some green. I'll just make a bit of a blurry base for this branch first, just so that I have some color over here, some shapes, and then I'll just refine that later. Here the green is pretty bright. So just a blurry version at first. All right, then I'll go back to the frog. Now let me turn off alpha lock so I can work on the edges a bit more. Let's just go in here. Now let me take a sip. All right. Maybe I'll go to the basic flow brush. Just to gently work on those edges a bit. I don't want them to be super crisp. It's a little bit blurry in the photo. And I also want to keep a bit of that like painterly touch. I'm sorry, I don't really have any tips on illustrating a children's book. I've never done anything like that. Of course, I make a lot of illustrations, but I don't have specific tips on illustrating a children's book. If I would have to do it, I would probably look at a whole lot of other children books and check what I like, check what works, the way like the images are spread out across the pages. Guess those are all things that you really need to think about. I'm sorry, I won't be doing any Five Nights at Freddy's artwork. No, my daughter really likes Five Nights at Freddy's, but I won't be making any fan art. Let me lower the opacity of the sketch a bit more. And maybe flip it again, like invert it. That's really great to hear, Grandma Mickey. Thank you, really kind. Well, hello, Brazil. So I'll just keep this area a little bit like blurry. Not totally understanding what's going on here with these fingers here. Yeah, I think those edges are okay for now. I want to tidy up these like fingers over here. Maybe just use an eraser. Maybe I'll just use my basic sketcher for that. Just so I don't get those super crisp edges. I don't want those. Well, thank you, Froggy Boy. That means a lot coming from a Froggy Boy. Definitely needs some more polishing though. Let's see. Well, the length of this toe looks right, and I kind of like check where it would end. But that other finger might need to be a little bit longer. I'll just fix that later. Just go back to my brush. Lengthen this a little bit. I think I can work with this. I'm going to add even more color variety. And let me just think what brush I shall use. Maybe I'll use my Flotastic brush. And I'll also think a little bit about the form right now. I want a darker blue. Well, thank you, Tanya. That's really great to hear. And thank you, Cube. And thank you, Alindria. You're all way too kind. Thank you. Well, here I need to be, well, I'll make the angle a little bit. I don't know how to call it, but it needs to change. I don't have alpha lock on, so that's good. Make this a bit more smooth. Let me turn on alpha lock just to be sure, so I won't go outside of the shape. I hope my screen doesn't wobble too much, by the way, because of my movements. Thank you, Alindria. This is just a perfect end of my week. Perfect Sunday evening. I should do this more often. Well, that's good to hear, Skonks. Starting to take shape a bit. Where you have that light edge on the mouth. The way to get the image on the side is by just opening a secondary app. You can swipe up from the bottom of your screen and then drag it to the side, and then you'll have a secondary window, and you can even make it bigger or smaller. Downloading brushes into Procreate is actually pretty straightforward. If you just tap them on your iPad, then they should just open in Procreate. Thank you, Pity Platch. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Now here I need some darker color. Not sure what it should look like. Maybe something like this. No, darker. Definitely darker. Sometimes you don't know what the color will look like until you drop it onto your canvas. Well, that's a long while, Sean. Since 2020. Wow. That's really good to hear, Danny. Oh, this is definitely not warm enough. I'll just use my overlay brush to warm that up. Yeah, it's nice. Oh, then the eyes, of course. Maybe with my lime brush. I mostly just use my iPad for drawing. In the past, I used to work on my computer with a Wacom tablet, but now I mostly just use my iPad. And sometimes I work traditionally, but I rarely have the time for that. And also, I want to spare my arm, my shoulder. But I really like working with pastels, for instance, or with ink, or just with colored pencils. Now, let me use the blender again. I'll just use one of my other blending brushes, one that has a bit of a grain, because that frog has some texture. So it's nice to get that in there with the blending. Yeah, the program is definitely forgiving, Grandma Mickey. I love that it's so easy to use for everyone, and the stabilization functions are just great for people who need that. I think it's great that everyone is able to create this way. All right, we're getting somewhere. The eyes still look derpy, but yeah, we'll get there. I still need some yellow on the body. Maybe something like this. Well, hi, Daisy. I'm glad you could make it, even if it's just for a little while. Of course, once this live stream is over, you can always just watch the replay. But it's great that you're here. So just a little bit of that pattern. Maybe I'll just smudge it a little bit. All right, for now, it's like a simple version of the frog. Now it's time to refine everything. We'll start using my darken line brush. Let's go in here. Well, thank you, Nanimation. Yeah, like this is really the refinement phase where I focus on the darkest and the lightest spots. That will really help shape the frog. Well, enjoy your breakfast, Froggy Boy. I touch the areas to pick up a color. I'm using a brush that is like set to the multiply tool, so it'll make areas darker, and I can just pick a local color, and then it'll have that color, but it'll turn out darker. So I use that to add shadows. So this way I don't have to think about the color picking anymore. I can just pick whatever is already there. So in the beginning I added a lot of color variety, and now I'm just working on the values. So it also works with brushes that make things lighter, like this light align brush. I can use that and just pick the local color and then create little highlights. And of course, it's always important to zoom out every once in a while so you don't get lost in tiny details. Oh, my screen looks really dirty. Sorry about that. My greasy fingers. So yeah, zooming out is really, really important. Oh, these fingers here are really, really a pain. They're very complicated. I can't get the colors directly from the photo in this case since it's in another app. And it's also something I never do. I like picking my own colors. Usually when you pick colors from a photo, things still end up looking muddy and not as vibrant. This leg looks very thin. I'll do something about that. Maybe just push this part up a little bit. Yeah, I think that's better. Well, thank you for the heart spam. I'm happy you're enjoying it, Grandma Mickey. And hi, Sayas, not sure how to pronounce it, but welcome to the chat. Let me just work on those toes a little bit. Let me think what I'll do next. Maybe I'll just work on the moss a little bit first. Let's see, maybe I can also use the light and line. Just get the suggestion of that moss. Not going to into like full detail. Maybe I can also use my base sketcher. It has a nice little texture. I think it could be nice for these, like, not sure, like almost little branches. I'm not trying to make an exact copy of the photo, just trying to look at like what makes this look like moss. Looking at the edges, the shapes. Well, that's great. Have fun creating your own capybara. Well, thank you, Avery. I'm happy you like it. Hi, Neutral. I kind of like this look for the moss. It's simplified, nice and expressive. Put some brownish moss in there. Yeah, here in the back, it's like really blurry, so I'll just keep it like that. Yeah, I do have a video on how to make bubbles. I think if you use the search function on YouTube, you should be able to find it. Yeah, I kind of like the branch like this. I just want to make the background a bit darker. Just use the soft brush for that again. Go a little bit darker. Yes. Now let's go back to the frog. Maybe I want to use some of my shading brushes. For me, it's always I have so many brushes, and it's always a bit like experimenting. I'm never sure beforehand what brushes I want to use, and sometimes I just try stuff and find out what works. what iPad I'm using. Well, it's an iPad Pro. I'm not sure what year it's from or what generation it is. I think I bought this one 2 years ago. Well, that's good to hear in animation. All right, let me check the shading brushes. What I have. Maybe the spackly lighter. Let's see, or maybe the grainy light and grainy shadows. Let me just try. It's always a bit of like trial and error. Definitely liking this. Not sure if it might be a bit too dark. Oh well. I just like some nice texture in there. Then I'll use that grainy light. Let's just see. Might just be a little bit too much. Let me check. Let me check what the sparkly lighter will do for my frog. That's actually nice. I like that moist part on its back. It's sparkling a little bit. So that works nicely, and also on its elbow over here. No, I'm actually not really using layers, Grandma Mickey. I have 4. I can actually turn off my sketch. I have one for the background, one for the branch, and one for the frog. For stuff like this, usually for realism, I like to use as few layers as possible. Adding lots of layers just complicates things, I think. So I like to take more of like a traditional approach. Even though I'm using a lot of the digital tools, of course. Yeah, I like this sparkly effect. Add some texture to the skin. These are my own brushes, but you can find them in my store at Gumroad, or you can just go to artwithflow.com. Although I'm not sure if I added all of the brushes there. Gumroad is the best option to check them out. So right now what I'm using is one of my shading brushes. So these are really the final touches to the frog. I do need like a clearer distinction between this part and the eye. Need to work on that. But I'll continue with these sparklies first. And some blue ones. It's always nice when you find a brush that does exactly what you want. Could also add some darker texture maybe. And like I said, zoom out every once in a while. Super important. Let me try to wet lighter for the eye. Not really what I want. Not in this case, in any way. Let me think. Yeah, I like this. I also want to fix the eye a little bit here. I'll use the eraser. Need to cut a little part off. And then over here, getting that crispness in there. And every time I say crispness, it sounds like Christmas. Sorry about that. Let me see, maybe well, I need like a darkening brush. I'll just go to the darker line again. Getting that distinction in there. Go to the Flow Darker. Just darkening this part up a little bit. Pushing that back. I can just fade that a little bit with the smudge tool. Yeah, that's better. Well, thank you, Grandma Mickey. I'm happy you like my my little frog. Let me see. I want the pattern to be a little bit lighter. Maybe I can just use, well, maybe I can use one of the shading brushes. Maybe I can use that grainy light here. And then I think I'm almost going to call my frog finished. It's just a nice little like speed painting exercise. And what I also always like to do is use that overlay brush for my basic set to just give the colors a little boost. And I often go back and forth between these brushes. Maybe a little bit of green here. So I like to go back and forth and then use like shading brushes again. Maybe the blended shadows. And then I'll work on some more contrast. Just really slowly building it up. How long I have been in this field? Well, I've been drawing since I was a little kid, so I started just with like traditional painting and drawing, and I started drawing and painting digitally, I think when I was 21, around that time, so that's almost 20 years ago. So yeah, it took me some time to get to this point. I did take a long break when, well, like I never had like education. I studied psychology actually, and when I started working in that field, I stopped drawing and painting. And then I had my kids, and there was no time for me to truly pursue anything in this field. So maybe I haven't drawn for like 8 years in that period. But then I got back, and then I got my iPad, and that made it so easy to just draw everywhere. Just take it with me on the train or yeah, just wherever. I was out for dinner with an artist friend yesterday, and I told her a story about when I was a kid and how I went to the library. And I was like, I don't know, maybe 9 years old. I just had a computer, and I found this book at the library about Corel Draw. I believe that was the name of the program. And it was like a tutorial book showing how you could make these different vector drawings in the program. And I read the entire book. I was obsessed with it, but I never got that program. I had no idea how I could even purchase or get something like that. But I was obsessed with that book, and then later forgot all about it until I was around 21 years old and my boyfriend showed me digital art. He was like, whoa, check this out. You can do this on your computer in Photoshop. And I immediately got obsessed with that. I thought I need a drawing, like a drawing tablet, purchased it right away and got obsessed with it. So yeah, I guess the obsession never stopped. Still find this like foot to be a little bit weird. Oh well, guess I'll just leave it like that. If we zoom out, we don't notice. It just shows that I struggle with some subjects as well. Well, I'm glad you found this new obsession, Sayas. I guess there will always be a discussion about what art is. Is a banana on a wall stuck to a wall? Is it art? There will always be discussion. I think it's all about the idea. And what I find most important is just being able to express yourself or just to relax and enjoy creating something. That's why we all started as young kids to pick up a pencil and just go for it and create stuff. Somehow, many people lose that along the way. things get too serious. But I think it should just be a source of joy and relaxation. I just don't get that arm. Just don't know what's going on there. When I was young, I used to just cut hands off or draw characters with their hands in their pockets just to avoid crazy stuff like this. Do need to fill that gap a bit there. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm Dutch. I live in Amsterdam. Yeah, let me just try and get some texture on the head. And maybe the feet should be a little bit darker. I'll just use my multiply brush for that. I do need to turn on Alpha Lock again. Thank you, Dean. I'm happy you like it. Yeah, that's just so true, Grandma Mickey. And I find that so sad. All right, that texture. Let me think. What can we use? What do I have? Maybe I can use the add salt brush. I don't know. Just gonna try it out. Yeah, I'll just make a new layer on top of this to add some of that texture. I think that's okay-ish. And then I'll just add a layer mask to this. I'm sorry, I'm hitting something here. I'll just add a layer mask and then fill that with black. And then I can use another brush. Just go for the basic flow brush, set to white. Then I can just add some of that texture. Bring some of that back. Yeah, it's subtle, but I think it adds something. Maybe I can refine this shadow area here a little bit. Go back here. How to do that? Maybe I'll just try the Flotastic brush and just pick that local color. Just want that to be a little bit more defined, that shape. Yeah, I have done abstract drawings in Procreate. I believe there should be a tutorial on that. I don't remember exactly what I made. Well, it was abstract, but yeah, there should be a tutorial on it on my channel. Yeah, I think I'm happy with my frog. Sometimes it can also help to just get rid of that reference image and just look at your result. What I also always like to do is go to that like recap video, to the replay, and just check how it started, like that super messy frog I started out with. And of course, you can speed it up a little bit just by sliding. The stand I'm using, I keep forgetting the name. I believe it's called Sketch Slate. I'm not sure. But it's wood, and it has like these, let me check, these magnetic like feet you can stick on. And this one was custom made for me. It has my logo on the back. But if you go to my website, Art with Flow, you should find it. You check my gear. And these, well, this is handmade by two guys in their backyard, I believe. So yeah, if you want a nice board, I would definitely recommend them. So yeah, I'm going to call it a day, I guess. It's 8:30, time for me to relax a bit, and then tomorrow I'll be ready for another week. I hope you have enjoyed. This is so dirty. Do I have a cloth? This is awful. You can't even see the drawing. Yeah, I just want a clean view. I don't have like any protection on my screen, by the way. I don't have I'm not sure, like a paper-like or a screen protector or whatever. This is better. This cloth actually works. Oh, it's from my camera stand thingy. So anyway, tomorrow I'll be ready for another week. I'll go and relax now. I hope you have enjoyed following this process. And I'd like to thank you all so much for your support, for being here. I really had a great time. And I'm hoping to do this some other time again. So everyone, enjoy your evening or your whole day if it's still ahead of you. And then I'll see you next time. Bye. Now I just need to find out how I need to quit the stream. I'm still a newbie. But bye bye.